Welcome to the show where we discuss the first Marvel Netflix series and discern the truth about why this show stands above the rest. The elements of quality storytelling other shows are blind to,
But
especially Luke Cage Season 2, Iron Fist, Jessica Jones Season 2, but not this show!
this show,
Join us as we start Discerning Daredevil. Sorry, Dragon, got to get a little bit of topical humor in there because, of course, my God, spoiler alert for Endgame in 3, 2, 1. I feel like the spoiler is kind of like done at this point because the TV ads are spoiling it and whatnot. But Dragon, the Marvel Netflix stuff is deader than Tony Stark.
that's. I think you've done something kind of bad there, Tiki. But
I mean, literally, because I feel like Tony Stark has a better chance to come back from the grave than the Marvel Netflix stuff.
well, yeah.
I'm sorry to update Dragon. At this point, TV commercials are airing everything. All right,
I mean, Tiki, there's like spoiling like big crowds because you spoiled the big one. I'm going to spoil one that comparatively is not as big, but like the hammer bit.
Dragon, I'm just saying we're living in a world where if you really care about Endgame spoilers, then you should have seen the movie already. All right, that's just the reality of the world we live in right now.
All right, fine. I'm just saying that is like the biggest spoiler of the movie.
I put a spoiler alert warning in there. I just wanted to go for the shock and awe factor of it.
All right, okay, it's fine. Point being, but here's the thing: you're right, and like let's just address it right out the gate here, because just gonna frame the whole season here. So real quick, of course, unfortunately, folks, Daredevil season 3, yes, has out of all the Netflix shows, surprisingly, Daredevil season 3 has been canceled. I believe it was one of the first to lead in the cancellations. Unfortunately, it's baffling.
It was the first to go, and then Daredevil. I feel like Daredevil was the one that kind of just dropped all the dominoes. Like after Daredevil, it was just kind of like you just kind of throw your hands up in the air at that point.
Yeah, because now I'm recalling it was Iron Fist.
Right. Like Jessica Jones season 2, you and I, like, we defend Jessica Jones season 2 to a certain extent, but that wasn't nearly as good as season 1. Honestly, in my opinion, Luke Cage season 2 was one of the biggest drops from season 1 to season 2 of any show I've ever seen. Like, it's like Heroes level of just a big drop in quality. Like, it's just like a big, I'm sorry to harp on this because I know you don't feel the same way, but
yeah, you're really harping on it.
Big example. It's just a big example of, like, I think of Luke Cage season 1, and I'm like, yeah, we got a 2-time Oscar winner in there as a great villain. We've got an awesome. Then Luke Cage season 2, it's just like, oh God, everything drags out, and everything's way too complicated, and Iron Fist is Iron Fist. Punisher is just a show that's way too slow for its own good. But Daredevil is always Daredevil, Dragon. Like, I think you and I can agree, like, even back in the days where people were like, oh, Daredevil season 2 isn't quite as consistently good as season 1, so therefore it's a disappointment. Dragon, I can say definitively, I think retroactively, Daredevil season 2 is a fucking gem compared to most of the Marvel Netflix stuff.
Oh, well, I mean, sure. Again, basically, the three Daredevil seasons are definitely three Daredevil seasons, and the obviously the first seasons of Jessica Jones and Luke Cage. Like that's pristine Netflix. Then you get the Punisher, which is also really good, but again, it has a pacing issue. And then basically beyond that, it's then of course we kind of devolve a little down the line there. Point being, unfortunately, folks, yes. So now I recall how it went down. It was Iron Fist and then Luke Cage because it's kind of a buddy system they got going on there. Then it was Daredevil, which kind of made you think like, oh man, what hope do the other shows have if Daredevil went? And surprisingly, Jessica Jones is getting a season 3, so that's
still shocking to me that that's actually happening.
And I knew there was a chance of it because Punisher, because Punisher was in production. That's why they did the Punisher because they had shot in New York and everything, and just because I heard, like, I didn't know how far they were, if they were shooting or not, but I knew they had it planned and written and everything. So that's what happened there. I mean, look, when we're saying, like, that is Stark, and I don't mean Game of Thrones, folks. That is Stark. Let me put it this way. I have no idea if that's a spoiler. I just know like there, I assume there are some dead Starks in Game of
I
Thrones.
assume so as well.
I don't. That's not even like a current Game of Thrones. I'm assuming there's like
Yes,
there's various
actually,
members.
yes. I know that there are definitively at least 3 or 4 dead Starks in Game of Thrones.
Point being, okay,
There's
so
probably a lot more.
point being, dead Starks aside, unfortunately, yes, that's the one hope I still hold for Daredevil because there's like a kind of a campaign, like very much like a show Lucifer had, like a save the show campaign. I'm not saying it's going to turn out as great and rosy as it did with Lucifer. Lucifer got picked up and put on Netflix, and that was wonderful. We have kind of a reverse situation going on here. And the point is, my hope, and I've kind of entered into the campaign and everything. Again, it's like some people have been like literally writing the letters and sending in the napkins and everything, and it's really a great gesture. There's great shows, swell support in the fan community and everything. But of course, Daredevil was the gem, the apple of the MCU, but more accurately, the MCU on the Netflix MCU's eyes.
Mm-hmm.
And he's got much acclaim and well deserved acclaim, especially season 3. And basically, the hope that I still maintain is that what I just want, the very simple thing that I want, I think is very achievable, is whenever there's a rumor that we have to wait 2 years before they can do anything with the characters from the Netflix shows. I believe that's the term of the deal. I don't know 100%. That's the word on the street. The word on the street is like we won't see like another Daredevil show or another of the other Netflix series like on Disney Plus or whatever they're doing going forward, like on Hulu or whatnot, whoever picks it up next for a 2 year span, which unfortunately means those actors are probably going to find other work and be a little busy. But the point being, and I want to stress this, even if they do a new Daredevil show and they make it a little less dark and everything, that's fine. But here's the thing I gotta stress: if you do that, bring back the same people. All right, just make it so that we don't say, like, "Hey, we're just casting aside this thing that for years we always thought all these shows were in the MCU because nothing said they weren't, and they were always under the assumption they were in the MCU." We mentioned the incident.
Honestly, my dream scenario would be I don't even really want another show. What I want is just full on, because I think both these actors have straight up deserved it, and I feel like their characters are more than iconic enough. I want Charlie Cox and Vincent D'Onofrio as part of MCU proper.
And that's what I'm saying. But whatever permutation is coming, whether it's going to be a more kind of PC TV show on Disney Plus or whatnot, or just full on throwing them in the movies, whatever that form takes, I fully agree with you, Tiki. That's the important thing. We need to bring back the same actors because I don't want to live in a world where we got a show this good that, again, they operate under the assumption, hey, we're in the MCU, let's give an MCU quality show. And we're going to say that, no, they never were in the movies, therefore their shows didn't count. That means the next thing that we do will be officially, it's going to be Disney backed and everything. It'll officially be in the MCU, whatever new faces we get, which means none of the excellent stuff that you loved counted. That's what my worst nightmare with what's going to happen with Daredevil. But again, like we got 3 excellent seasons of one of the best. Again, I still stand by this. And again, I mean, still nothing's really deterred me from this in the coming years. Ever since the first season of Daredevil, this is still the best live action superhero thing the best live action superhero show I've ever seen in my life. Still to this day. I gotta say, consistency again. The 3 seasons are great. Again, 2's not bad. Just 2 again. They kind of they bit off a little more than they can chew. In a perfect world, they could have split.
I mean, like I said, 2 was like, it had a little bit of a wonky ending. There were maybe a few too many ninja fights towards the end of it. But like compared to most of the other Netflix seasons, 2 was filled with gems.
Yeah, and you follow what I'm saying, though, right?
Yeah,
the fact, like again, 2 could have been another season if they limited the episodes, because you had there's a Hand season, it's a Punisher season. The Punisher season was great, and the Hand season was good, but again, the Hand season was kind of crammed into the Punisher season. That's the problem. But again, good stuff. Elektra, of course, we love Elektra.
Of course. Not everyone loves Elektra, but we do.
Point being, so we had 3 excellent seasons, and again, for the most part, again, was batting, I guess, more like a 75% out of the 100 for Defenders, because again, for the most part, Defenders was great. We're just 2 kind of stalled out, and basically, that one really bad episode 7 really hurt Defenders. Really, if you really want to look at it. Boiled down to equation,
honestly, Dragon, I feel like Defenders is a show where it's like I feel like you and I liked it just because it ticks some of the boxes for us with a few of the episodes, but really looking back on it, I feel like Defenders did more harm than good.
It did, but the one really good thing, and the reason I bring up Defenders, is the one really good thing that Defenders did, of course, is that it kind of got us to the Born Again season that we're about to dive into.
Right.
That's, all the Matt Murdock stuff is essentially the setup and ties into a little bit of the. Essentially, that's thematically Born Again, and we see Matt have pieces of him ripped away, and basically we get Matt to rock bottom in a literal sense at the end of the Defenders, and that's where we pick up this season, where we kind of tell the other side of Born Again. How does a guy pick himself up from like the lowest point in life? And that's what this season is, and that's what this story is. And of course, I think it all basically that was kind of the mission. It basically is kind of like the Iron Man Avengers scenario there, where again it's like we have the first two Iron Man movies, then we do Avengers, and of course we have the aftermath going forward. And that's kind of the situation we have with the story of Matt Murdock in a sense. And of course, very much like Tony Stark as Tiki so bluntly put it, our kind of the shepherd of our television Defenders here. Of course, he very much he had a big role in a big arc, and again, he is kind of like we live and die by our. He was our end. He was the beginning. He was the end all be all. And of course, I think it's very befitting that if anyone had like kind of the best definitive ending of all these shows, it was Daredevil. Now we'll see how Jessica Jones season 3 goes. By all means, but let's face it, there's no knocking Daredevil season 3. I mean, I'm going to say it right now. Point being, folks, we're going to broach these like we kind of do the past season. Of course, the cat's out of the bag. That no more Daredevil. That kind of gives a little bit of importance. Now, folks, it's the last time we're really going to be talking about Daredevil until one day, hopefully, maybe they bring in Charlie Cox and Vincent D'Onofrio in the films or wherever they're going next. But again, fingers crossed. This is the last time we're talking about good old Hornhead himself. So we're going to break down the episodes kind of as they came. So we're not going to say, oh, remember what happened in the last one? But again, you folks know what happened. You've seen what happened. You've cried with us. Or, oh, no, we got to watch it again because now it's gone. Why, Netflix? Why? Netflix is saying, don't blame me. It was Disney. We can't legally say it, but it was Disney. They had their boots on our necks. We had no choice. Don't blame us. We're going to dive into season 3 and kind of go episode by episode through this. Hopefully you'll stick around with us. Obviously, if you've seen us cover the first 2 seasons, you're going to stick along for the journey. Otherwise, hopefully you enjoy and just reminisce with us over Daredevil season 3.
Also, Dragon, quick note before we get started. I feel like the timing kind of like, I don't know. I feel like there's some justification because we've delayed this a couple times due to real life drama on my end. But I feel like the timing kind of worked out here because Avengers Endgame, it fended off its biggest opponent yet at the box office and still came out on top, Dragon. As much as I like Detective Pikachu, and we'll get into Detective Pikachu in a spoiler cast early on next week, Avengers Endgame in its 3rd weekend at the box office crushed Detective Pikachu by like almost $15 million, I think, if I remember the math right. And Dragon, it's like Avengers Endgame 3rd weekend at the box office, season 3. A little bit of symmetry there. I don't know.
True. Of course, it's a few $100 million away from being the highest grossing movie of all time. That Endgame.
Yep. All right. So with that in mind, Dragon, you want to just dive into the categories here?
Well, tell the folks what the episode's called.
Oh yes, the episode is called Resurrection.
There we go. Yes, so let's dive into our categories here. Let's break it down.
All right. Plot.
Yes, plot. So here's what happens in the episode in a nutshell, folks. So we essentially track Matt Murdock's rebirth in his healing existential journey to heal his spirit and his body, which leads to the introduction of Sister Maggie, who's a character we've been building up for 2 seasons now. It's in the background, very, very, very subtly. And of course, we had the big, basically, kind of link up with the scene at the end of Defender. That's kind of where the majority of this episode kind of starts. Meanwhile, Karen and Foggett are struggling to accept Matt's quote-unquote death at the end of Defenders. Again, kind of linking up with Defenders there. And we meet a financially struggling FBI agent by the name of Ray Nadeem. Now, he's going to be really important coming up here, folks. But we kind of meet him kind of really amazingly kind of close to the end of the episode. We kind of meet this big character who makes a deal with Wilson Fisk, the kingpin himself, to save his family. So let me rephrase that. He makes a deal with Wilson Fisk to save Vanessa from being charged as an accomplice to his crime. Something that Matt Murdock threatened Fisk with back in season 2. So basically, Vanessa will be charged unless Fisk does something. So he makes a deal with the FBI. And Daredevil rushes back into the field and almost dies for real this time. So that's the episode in a nutshell. Sounds like some amazing plot points. Can't wait to get to them.
Oh boy! All right, next one. Next up, we have arcs. Arcs. Okay, Dragon. Okay, so let's of course start with the man in red himself. Well, at this point, he's just kind of wearing black for most of the episode, but I digress. Let's talk about Matt.
Yes.
Yeah.
So again, at the start of things here, we're Matt Murdock. I'm blind Matt Murdock. That guy.
I'm blind Matt Murdock.
So literally, we kind of open the episode with Matt born again after losing everything at the end of Defenders. Again, hence kind of the correlation there. So again, like Defenders is kind of the arc of him, like he's he tried to kind of abandon Daredevil, like it was an addiction. We kind of get a reason for that in this episode, like how exactly that went down, like him choosing to abandon Daredevil. And of course, we saw he kind of failed miserably at it, but again, it was for a good reason. He saved the city. And that led to him of course that led to him getting buried under the building with Elektra. He and Elektra essentially again quote unquote died because again Elektra traditionally Elektra's never down, but right now she's seemingly gone. So Matt's lost everything. Stick died last on Defenders. He's lost Elektra. He's very injured, and he's literally he's literally found by Lantum and Maggie, and it's a very full circle moment. So I love that. It's like one, he's kind of found by again the whole born again. Of course, is a very religious connotation, as in that story, and of course, kind of Matt looking for directions. I like that he's found, but essentially kind of found and kind of dropped into the lap of the church again, and we go super full circle with the whole "I can't see" bit at the start of the episode, where it's like Matt literally
yeah, I can't see bit. That was kind of like a runner up for my blinding moment of awesome. Blinding, get it? But
yeah.
It was just a great callback, a great dramatic, like, oh my god, like Matt's like just at square one, and that's the thing with Matt. He just really has to build himself up like from the root again.
Which again, I'll say this, not to harp on throughout the whole season, but definitely here because it's appropriate. Again, if this is going to be the last time we get to look at Daredevil again, there's a lot of great full circle closing the loop bits in this season. Again, they had an idea of like, what, we'd like to come back for more, but just in case we don't, let's make this big. And moments like these really, again, this is how you open the season with. Again, this is like after this is the end of the cold open. Right after this bit, like, I can't see literally the first cold open of the entire series with the blinding of young Matt Murdock. He is now yet again a helpless kid at the start of a journey and a rebirth. Again, literally, how much more synonymous can be rebirth than we're going all the way back to square one with facing his biggest challenge yet, which will be this season. So it's really riveting. Really start to a riveting arc with Matt here. And what I love is that throughout this episode, throughout the whole season, honestly, what we illustrate so well is that Matt is playing hurt this season, big time. He is. I mean, he's part deaf. He's part deaf in one ear, and he's got a big, which is a big handicap for Daredevil. We saw what happened when he had a concussion in season 2. He's got damaged sinuses. His sinuses are all filled with blood and ash. He's in really bad shape, and that's just that's the physical side of things, folks. Emotionally, he's gutted emotionally. Like immediately, we know those scars that Nobu gave him way back in season 1. Those are nothing. I don't even mean when Nobu came back to life in season 2. I mean, these are wounds, man. These are emotional wounds. He's he's doubting his purpose. We have one of this is my runner-up for a blinding moment, by the way. We have the Job scene. Oh my god, I love the Job scene.
Oh, I'm sorry. This is the boxing match, is it?
No. Well, no. Job is the remember when Matt puts it on Front Street to Sister Maggie, where he tells her, this is where we get to the emotional wounds of Matt Murdock, where he's doubting his purpose in life, or he basically parallels his story to the story of Job in the Bible, where basically he was the story of Job essentially is you serve as God's ultimate soldier. You're God's ultimate soldier. You follow him. You're the ultimate servant. You kill all these goats and everything ceremonially, and basically you do all that so your children are spared, and you do everything to a T. And at the end of the day, all your children get killed by God. The point is, it's endless suffering. That's the parallel that Matt takes. You do things properly. You keep getting back up. You keep doing the good stuff because it's good. And all for what? Because you're going to lose everything anyway. So Matt's just—it's not that he's not renouncing God or religion or anything, but he's basically has a more cynical outlook on his mission and on everything. Basically saying it was all for nothing, all this, and I've lost everyone. I tried to forge bonds, but it was all for naught. He's really down and out. He's again not renouncing.
Almost kind of like the inverse of Spider-Man No More, right? It's like Matt Murdock No More.
Again, it's so funny.
Like instead of the Daredevil suit in the trash can, it's the Matt Murdock lawyer get up in the trash can.
Iggy, it's so amazing that in all these Netflix shows, and Defenders and Daredevil especially, we've done the Daredevil no. It's amazing when you really think about it. We've done Daredevil No More a couple times, and each time it's very compelling, and it doesn't get old. Right?
And honestly, I feel like they've done a good job of kind of establishing Daredevil No More as like not just like a plot point, but like a major theme of the character.
Yes, because think about it. Season 2, we had the whole the Punisher gave him made him wonder man, I've seen where this vigilante life can lead. Maybe I shouldn't be Daredevil anymore. And that kind of lasted for a while. And he's kind of breaking. Elektra was the temptation that got him back into things, and of course, Defenders was he tried to put it behind him once and for all. Very Spider-Man No More esque. And then of course now we're doing the kind of the more kind of philosophical way of Daredevil No More physically I can't do it, but also why do I do it? He's asking the big questions of why now.
It's like he can't be Daredevil, but he also can't be Matt Murdock.
Exactly, because he's tried to be both, and it's failed miserably. Tried to be Matt Murdock in Defenders, it won't take, and of course, being Daredevil he leads to the path where he basically. Here's the most fascinating parallel to me, Tiki. Is that, again, the Tony Stark thing. I'm trying to save your bacon for anyone who's going to be saying, "Hey, you spoiled Endgame." Of course, folks. Of course, you're going to watch Endgame. If you're watching this, you've watched Endgame. I'm not trying to attack the viewer here, but my point is, my point is, of course, there is a very interesting parallel between Matt Murdock and Tony Stark in the sense of after Avengers, Tony Stark, he went in the wormhole to save New York, and of course, that was him making the sacrificial play, and he lived. He didn't expect to live, and he just kind of ran with that. Led to the PTSD of Iron Man 3, right?
Yes.
And Daredevil has a similar thing here, where again he's seen what the end of his goal is. Where again he served God and he lost everyone. It was really painful. He lost Stick, he lost Elektra, he lost everybody, and essentially he died, but he's still somehow alive. And again, the fundamental question is why am I still around? You could look at it as, well, God has another mission for me, which essentially is the events of season 3, or he's just making me suffer by living with with nothing and having to start again with this moral quandary. So it's very interesting stuff. And of course, once he kind of gets, I love that his father is kind of the inciting thing, and much like young Matt, of course, much like young Matt Murdock is being blind again, going full circle with our parallels and our bits here, where. The big connection, the thing kind of motivates him to kind of seek justice and everything at its core is a boy who lost his father.
Yeah.
And kind of taking on what his father didn't want him to do, but the father's no longer around, so he's the fighter yet again. And of course, in doing so, he rushes back into the action. And of course, it's very ill-advised. We have the boxing test. Don't have the boxing scene.
Yeah, this scene is just kind of I don't know. It's it's awkward in a good way. I feel like it's supposed to be a little bit uncomfortable where Matt's just all pumped up. Yeah, come on, I can do it. I can do it. And then the other guy's just guys, really? Why are you putting me into this morally very difficult situation? You're literally asking me to hit a woman or something at this point. It's why?
I mean, there's no more obvious metaphor than you're asking me to box a blind guy.
Right, exactly. And I just love how pumped up Matt is, and the other guy's so uncomfortable about the situation.
Of course, just have wonderful literal symbolism beyond just the whole boxing of blind man. But more importantly, again, this is the first time we've ever seen Matt in dressed like Jack Murdock. He's dressed like a boxer, with boxing gloves on. That's a big thing. It's kind of the son become the father story. And again, that's the symbol of what gets Matt back into the swing of things. The only thing you could think of that could get Matt back and kind of spark the fire. And of course, we see that fire it's rain season when that fire has been sparked right now, because he's in the field and basically he's trying to get back. He's trying to get that season 1 spark going. He's trying to get back to the very beginning we saw of Daredevil in season 1, where he's going out there, he's going to right and wrongs, he's stopping bad guys the live long day, and without getting the specifics. we get to ultimately he saves some people, but he is defeated. And the big, and this is so fascinating. This is the best thing I can say about episode one, Tiki, about Resurrections. And I love that we have this great, we have this really gutsy ending for episode one for Matt Murdock. Again, we show all his progress, we have all this focus dedicated to him, and we end on such a downer for his arc here, where he's asking for death because he has this really great telling line, the line that themes the season and themes the arc and themes the episode. I'd rather, like, Matt's realization after the story of Job is quite simple. It's, I'd rather die as the devil than live as Matt Murdock, because that's the fate he was dealt. That's what he learned. Like, that's the only life I can live, is dying as the devil. It's like, goes back to season one. The Murdoch boys have the devil in them. He's fully like, I'm Daredevil is what I am. I can't escape it. So that, man, my fate is death, and I'd rather die as a devil. And of course, Matt, unable to even be a fully functioning Daredevil, just at the failure. Like, he was defeated, and not even like it's not even like they were going to kill him, like they were going to abandon him and leave him. But he says no. He tosses him this steel pipe, and he's just like in a very religious, almost like kind of like Christ-like pose, I guess. He's just like kneeling on the ground. He's just like, God, God forgive me. He can't go on. He just wants him to beat him to death because he just can't do it anymore. He's willing to die as the devil. It's, oh my God, it's so born again, full circle. I love it.
And then a great touch of that scene is that right after they run off and the cops pull up, we get that great shot where the camera pans up from Matt. We see the cops roll up, and the camera pans back down to where Matt was, and he's gone.
And the brilliance of this is, yet again, Tiki, he's in a position where he should have died, but he didn't. And again, it's like really right back to the end of Defenders, where we just found him like kind of washed up on the shore. Where again, it's like, where do we go with him next? Wow, it's good storytelling.
Good stuff.
All right.
Okay, I guess briefly with Fisk, because it's more just kind of set up, and I know that one of the moments is your blending moment of awesome, and another scene with him we're going to cover in dynamics. So what else do we have to cover with this that's not Omelette or Nadim related?
Well, specifically, we've got to talk about him getting the Vanessa news. So let me frame it for you. Let me get to that point. So I love that we continue the season 2 plan of Fisk. So again, this is my interpretation of Fisk. Now, of course, we're going to be throwing a little bit of a loop later on in the season, but I do want to kind of focus on what we do know and what we have here. And again, for the most part, I believe this still to be true. So I think Fisk at the start of the season, he is continuing. We check in with him. It's been a while since we've checked in with him because, of course, he like kind of set the Punisher loose and kind of essentially, I love the Kingpin created the Punisher show. Technically, it's really fun. When you really think about it, he did. He created the Punisher show because he let him out of prison. And 2 seasons in, Kingpin, he has a business. He should be in Hollywood. That Wilson Fisk. Point being, so he's continuing his plan from season 2, which essentially is he controls the prison, but he's still trying to keep a low profile. Like, he doesn't do his own dirty work within the prison, but of course, he controls things because his plan is quite simple. He wants to serve his time so he can be released and he can be with Vanessa. Very simply, that is the Kingpin's plan. That's, I believe, what he still wanted at the start of the season. The Kingpin, however, and I think what we check in with, again, the specifics of a certain sequence, Kingpin is, to my looking at D'Onofrio, looking at like him unshaven and everything, it looks to me that Kingpin is suffering because of the lack of Vanessa. Like, again, like his plan is going accordingly for a moment, but again, he's still suffering in prison. Where again, it's like the lack of Vanessa and the lack of his power, like the full power, like the kind of the refinement that the Kingpin is used to. Which, of course, this season will definitely get into, like kind of like him reclaiming power and refinement and everything. Again, but basically, the hoity-toity life just kind of economized to what it is at its core: power. He's been denied this in prison. He can only have so much power, and that's the idea. Like, Kingpin has gone as far as he can go within the prison system. And again, he's taking it, but this is a man facing his punishment, and he's filing an appeal. Which let me put it to you this way: I think I would say potentially this is him greasing the wheels a little bit here. Like, I think he had some advantages. I think he knew he was going to get out with an appeal because he greased some wheels that we're going to find out a little bit later in the season. That's basically as far as I think he's planned ahead. In my personal opinion, we'll get more on that when we get to other episodes. But here's the problem. Here's the inciting incident for Kingpin for the whole season. Because again, it's just Fisk is an amazing character even in the prison setting. Because season 2, what we had was Fisk he was just wanted to leave his head down low and everything, get out and be with Vanessa. But then that one guy Dutton called him out and says, "Hey, I'm the kingpin of this." And of course, then he took over the person just because he was challenged by that guy. That's awesome. And I think we had a similar thing here where, again, Fisk was just going to serve out his time, get an appeal, probably get out early. But the one problem is that Vanessa is going to be charged if she returns. And I think this made Fisk make a lateral, proactive move here. We're okay. Well, no, I have to. Not only do I have to get out of here, but more specifically, I have to secure. I have to, in putting that in the works. What I have to do first and foremost, even before I even get out of here, Kingpin is willing to break the cardinal rule. The cardinal rule of prison and organized crime and the whole shebang is you do not rat. You do not turn on your associates, but he's willing to do that to save Vanessa. He's willing to cut a deal with the FBI, and I'll just frame it from again, how it relates to Fisk's arc right there. He's choosing, he's choosing, and the fascinating parallel, fascinating parallel between, of course, this, when they hit this note in episode 1, I was excited, Tiki. My favorite thing in all of Daredevil is the parallel between Wilson Fisk and Matt Murdock, and we're doing that here with how they're choosing to live their lives. Fisk is choosing life and loved ones versus Matt, who's willing to die alone as the devil. That's amazing. I love that.
Yeah, for sure. It's definitely like it puts the villain in a place of like almost like, like you relate more to the villain, like you're almost more sympathetic to him. It's like, damn, all this dude wants is like a normal life, and he's like kind of putting his ass on the line to get it. Whereas Matt, Maggie has this great scene where she's just kind of like chewing Matt out. It's like, what are you doing, man? It's like you've got all this potential and you're just kind of sulking and wasting it away and throwing a pity party for yourself.
Yep.
All right. So Karen, mostly the Karen flashbacks.
Yes,
well,
so
all Karen flashback for this, I guess.
Yeah, pretty much. So again, we're going to break down kind of this. We'll check in with Karen and Foggy a little bit later on, but right now, Karen, we have a big major blank filled in from Daredevil season 2 to the beginning of Defenders, where we kind of check in with the two of them after that big, because remember, the end of Daredevil season 2, of course, is the big identity reveal, and we get to see that scene unfold here. So let's talk about that.
Yeah, I really like the way that this scene is handled. It's very mature. It's kind of like, there's nothing really flashy or like, she doesn't freak out. It's not all, it's not like a shock and awe moment. It's more just like a quiet, like, oh my God, like, this is just, no, this, like, how could you? It's more like a quiet, how could you than like a shock and awe, like, ah, God, you're Daredevil. Oh, shock. You know what I mean? It's like they play it subtly, and I think the subtlety of the scene definitely gives it its power, I think.
Yeah, we take, again, like the phrase it through another running gag. We kind of play it a bit of a more of a Kim Wexler than a Skylar White, if you will.
Sure.
Yeah, because we have this. She. I love that she acknowledges very smart. Like, she can't be angry at Matt because Matt saved her life. But again, the idea is that the trust in the relationship has been shaken for sure. Not demolished, but just shaken. That's kind of where we check in with him.
And then Matt as a lawyer, I love that Matt as a lawyer is basically like giving her reasons to be mad at him.
Mm-hmm. And now she put, and again, this is really, again, this fills in a kind of again, something you don't need for where we check in with him with Defenders. But again, this really fills in a big blank here where we learn here that she challenged Matt. She challenges that Matt, that Daredevil is not the problem, that Matt Murdock is, which kind of led to the Defenders arc of, again, him trying to prove that, Matt Murdock is not the problem. And he's basically trying to prove Karen wrong and leave Daredevil behind him, which, of course, led to the inevitable and then basically lands on a lot of guilt on Karen's part. Karen blames herself for kind of motivating Matt to do what he did in Defenders. So, again, she's feeling a little guilty, and that's kind of what we learned from the flashback.
All right. Is that about it?
Yeah.
Okay, that was easy. All right, let's go to Ray Nadeem. Nadeem.
All right.
Or as I like to call him, the Good Madani.
Yes, so that's essentially that's so Ray Nadeem. Ray Nadeem is he's an FBI agent and a family man facing a lot of money problems here because, and this is very important for later on, he's facing money problems because his sister, and this feels to me very Breaking Bad-esque, by the way, because literally,
it totally is this like that. That's kind of what drew me to this guy to begin with. It's like you said earlier, Dragon. At the end of the episode, like in the last like 10 minutes or so, we get this like mini Breaking Bad pilot for this dude.
it's basically what if Breaking Bad was from Hank Schrader's perspective. That's kind of what it is. The idea is that Ray Nadeem, his sister-in-law, emphasis on in-law, his sister-in-law, had cancer, and basically she's in remission. They're having a little party for her, basically kind of celebrating during the kid's birthday party, and she's in remission, but her importantly, her health coverage was denied, so that's why he had to kind of step up and help kind of pay the bills on that, which of course created a lot of financial problems and is really challenged advancement in his position here. So again, he's very proactive. He tries to get some career advancement, tries to get a raise at work. Because basically have to advance so he can get a raise, and it's been denied to him again for a reason which we'll get into later on. But right now it's because of his money problems. But again, all are related, folks. All are related. I'll say that much. And basically, what we overall with the Nemi, he was kind of the unlucky everyman who catches a break with this Kingpin deal at the end, and it seems to be the answer to his prayers. But yeah, I mean, Nadim's a likable guy, right?
No, absolutely, Dragon. What I like about him is that, I mean, I don't want to harp on this throughout the season. I have a feeling it's going to be a running comparison, though, is that Madani in The Punisher, to me, her scenes just drag down the episodes, man. Like, it wasn't even that she was badly written or that the actress was bad or anything. It's just that her scenes felt very disconnected from the rest of the show, I guess. And with Nadeem, what I like about it is that, yeah, his entrance does come a little out of nowhere, but very quickly it's tied into the main villain, and very quickly we're like, okay, this guy is like diving headfirst into the Kingpin storyline. Like, we understand why we're supposed to root for him. We understand why he's doing this. We hold no ill will to him doing it, which is a very important part of the character. Honestly, I think Ray Nadeem is probably one of the better strokes of season 3 in general. I mean, I really like him a lot.
And fully original character, by the way.
Yeah. I really respect that.
And again, that's a risk too. Of we're going to introduce some. Many times, the kiss of death has been an original character within a show. And I'm not saying everything always has to slavishly be like, it has to be someone from the books. But I mean, sometimes you can luck out. Sometimes not so much.
I'm not wrong, but the worst characters on Jessica Jones were all original, right?
I believe. Well, I'm trying to think of how many other. I know, but obviously what? I think I'm going to go with that. Yeah,
pretty much. Thinking of. What's her name? Gretchen, I think.
No, are you thinking of Wendy?
Well, I mean, no, I'm thinking of the neighbor.
Oh, that was Robin.
Robin. Yeah.
When you say Gretchen, here's the funny thing, because remember, we have the Jessica Haish, who played, I believe, Anne Heche's sister too. I'm not sure about it. The point being, Jessica Haish from Breaking Bad, who played Gretchen Schwartz. Like, she's in Jessica Jones, but she's sorry. Never mind. But yes, Robin and Wendy are bad characters. Yes, and they were.
Everyone knows it's Wendy.
But speaking of that, that's I'll say it. With Madani, the thing that always bugged me about Madani was I did not give two craps at the Madani's mother story. I never needed to see Madani's mother.
And that's the thing that Nadeem gets so good right off the top. We get about 5 minutes of his family life, and boom, I feel like we're hooked right away, don't you think?
Yeah, and again, I'd argue it's kind of like we have this great bit where, again, like he comes in like, it's kind of like, what the? Because we have this, literally, he comes in right after the big Daredevil moment. We're like, oh my God, he's one that dies the devil. Oh my God, like that's ordinarily, that's where the episode ends, right? But then we go from that to, hey, it's Ray Nadeem. We're kind of in this complex and go. We're kind of in this complex.
And I like how it's just get thrown into like a very mundane domestic situation where it's like, oh yeah, I would have gone to the deli, but card got denied. So what are we gonna do? Like, it's not a, what I mean? Like that situation.
Yeah.
It's not a terrible situation, but at the same time, it's a situation that's bad enough to kind of fuck up a day a little bit. So I like how Nadeem is kind of just like right off the bat, like right as this guy is introduced, we're kind of like we're forced to sort of watch him like navigate this tricky social situation where he's got this thing kind of weighing on his mind, and yet he's got to be the master of ceremonies at the party. He's got to kind of negotiate with his son. You know what I mean? It's like there's all these kind of social waters that Nadim is kind of going through just in the first moments of him as a character, and I think that's really impressive, especially for an original character.
Absolutely. Okay, that brings us to
good stuff.
That brings us to our next segment, then. Our next next category.
All right, daring dynamics.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right. So let's see. Let's start with the big one of the episode. Of course, the one that's appropriate for kind of a recent holiday that's passed. It's Matt and Sister Maggie.
Yes, Mother's Day. Oh man, Dragon, this is honest.
Hello? Sorry about that, folks. Yes, but yes, Matt and Maggie is one of the is probably one of the single most important Maggie Sister Maggie again. I don't want to say new character because again she's been set up, but I mean by the same token she's introduced here. So Maggie is probably one of the most important characters to season 3, and their dynamic is a very strong one. That's a very recurrent one. And of course, very important in episode 1 here, where it gets very much kind of Matt's recovery. And of course, many people would probably draw the fact to, man, where's Claire this season? Of course, the main answer is, Rosario Dawson didn't want to be in the Netflix shows anymore. Secondly, of course, she was kind of, we wrote her off in Luke Cage. But the more important story reasoning, it's not just like, well, we couldn't afford her. The more important reason that we don't have Claire is that we, Maggie, of course, who's been out of Matt's life, and of course, her big reintroduction is that she heals him up and she enters Matt at the lowest point in his life. So that's the important reintroduction of Maggie. And basically, I feel that Maggie is a symbol of Matt's fate. She's a symbol of Matt growing up as this blinded kid and being and basically sorry, let me rephrase that here. Essentially, the dynamic we have here is kind of a symbol of Matt's fate and his life growing up as a blinded kid here, where she's guiding Matt down the healing path. That's what she's doing here. She's guiding him down the healing path. And she's and we see where Matt got a little bit of his sardonic edge to him. There, they have the sardonic kind of wit. It's like Jack Murdoch definitely had like the good heart and the morals and the physical, kind of the physical inspiration. And the reverse of that, though, is we have Maggie, who is kind of that sardonic and Catholic Catholic truth to her. That Catholic toughness, tough love to her, and it definitely kind of applies here. And again, she's very indicative of kind of Matt there and kind of Matt's outlook on life and kind of the commitment to the mission. So all that, the two of them are very similar in that regard. And basically she's hitting with a lot of tough love to match this new cynical outlook on life. So again, she's giving him tough love again to kind of in one way make up for not being there for him all those years. And that's the really interesting thing. Because of course, like I know folks, a bit of a spoiler, but by all means, again, she is his mother. And for any Daredevil fans, you always know that, okay, so Maggie, every time I mention this word Maggie, it's his mother. But Matt doesn't know that quite yet. He doesn't know that Sister Maggie is his mother. For all we know, again, he never knew his mother growing up because basically from birth, he was separated from her. So be a question if he heard Maggie in the background time to time. And of course, like he can't assume every Maggie is going to be his mother. So the point being, these two characters, again, they're both kind of on a journey, a healing journey of like one, the kind of the reconnecting with their son, and on the flip side of things, Matt kind of reinvesting himself in his faith by his mother, who of course he has very little faith in. So again, it's a very interesting kind of dynamic where the two of them help each other. And again, she's basically reappeared at the most trying moment of Matt's life. She's helping him through his worst obstacle ever, and in many ways, what's so awesome is that she's kind of the opposite of Stick. But I love how she's the opposite of Stick, saying, no, you need to forge these connections. You need to embrace life. You need to use your gifts. Like, don't be a sad sack. Don't ask the big prolific questions. Just get out there, man. Keep doing what you're doing. But she's just as strong-willed as Stick, though. Again, it's like, what if you had kind of like a more sociable Stick? That's kind of what you get with Sister Maggie there. All right. So let's see. I'm going to touch in this scooch around here. Let's talk about Karen and Foggy. So Karen and Foggy. So Karen and Foggy, they're having trouble moving on post Matt, post the quote unquote death of Matt Murdock here. And Foggy, he blames himself for Matt's fate because he brought him the clothes, he brought him the devil suit to change into. And of course, he's blaming himself. And Karen, she's still paying Matt's rent with the hopes that he'll return to his apartment one day. She's hoping that come on. It's almost as if she's seen the Marvel movies. Like, Coulson died and he came back. It'll be fine. He'll come back. So again, she's holding out hopes. But Foggy's just kind of, again, Foggy's had to move on. He's blaming himself mostly. Like, come on, Karen, look, I'll help you pay things off. But you and I, we eventually have to put Matt behind us. Right. So let's see. I love what Elton Henson brings so wonderfully to the role here. I love how he's so supportive of Karen here. He's supportive of Karen. Yes.
Yeah. Sorry about that. Okay. Are we on? We're on.
Karen.
Are we still on Matt and Maggie here?
Well, if you have anything you'd like to say on Matt and Maggie, by all means. But I'm kind of breaching on to.
Well, what was the last thing? I think I kind of cut out. I think I kind of cut out mid sentence. So, what was the last thing you were hearing from me about Matt and Maggie?
Well, I think you were just getting started. You were saying the thing about you're about to talk up Maggie a little bit. That's kind of weird.
Okay, so I just really quickly, just to summarize my thoughts, I guess. I really like this episode. I feel like Maggie's one of the stronger parts on it. She just kind of has that kind of cantankerous, like, I like how it just you get the feeling like she's been dealing with these kids forever. And with Matt, it's like it's almost just kind of like an especially difficult student, but she knows that there's potential underneath it all. And of course, on a rewatch, given the extra layer we find out about Maggie, I feel like performance-wise, the actress definitely rises to the occasion because there's a lot of different layers to how she cares for Matt throughout the episode. And yeah, just generally, I really like the bit with the raviolis dragon.
Right, yeah. Oh god, that bit, yeah.
Where Matt's like doing the punching bag, and she's like, "What in God's name are you doing?" And then Matt's like, "Oh, I can see that you've got me raviolis. Nice. Now you're just showing off." I love that. I like how Maggie is almost kind of like a female Clint Eastwood to Matt. You know what I mean?
Well, more accurately, I was laying out. I think she's kind of a more sociable version of Stick. It's like, imagine she's just as tough
as well. Yeah.
She's just as tough as Stick, but she's the one encouraging. Like, no, you make the connections. Like, reunite with your friends. Embrace life. And basically, and what I was saying is, I love their kind of a parallel for you see where she got. Of course, Matt got his kind of physical temerity and kind of his morals from his father, but by the same token, he got obviously the Catholic. You got kind of the sardonic edge and kind of the Catholic tough love and kind of devotion from his mother. So that's kind of interesting.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Anyway, so let's again. I was what do I have on Karen and Foggy? Because I was basically I'm talking about like kind of Foggy supporting her yet. Foggy's supporting Karen yet. By the same token, like we have to move on though. Like he'll help her pay off the apartment, but we got to move on.
Yeah, honestly, I don't have a ton to say about Foggy. I do really love the line, like just because it was Matt's choice doesn't make me regret every night that I didn't bring him sweatpants instead of the suit. I like that. I like the dynamic between Karen and Foggy, where Foggy's like, he really misses his friend a lot, but it's clear he wants to move on, whereas Karen is clearly not ready to move on. They're kind of like at different points in the grieving process, but they're still very supportive of each other. It's a nice dynamic there. All right. Thank you for that.
And one last thing I wanted to know. Right. One last thing I wanted to note is I like that again. Basically, with the Foggy and Karen story, again, we do parallel what Matt's dealing with, what Matt and Fisk are dealing with right now, where you have. Again, it's representative of Matt's path of of moving on and keeping the faith. That's kind of where we're at with them. So Karen is about Karen's keeping the faith and Foggy's moving on. That's kind of the war that Matt and Fisk are kind of like they're both kind of on opposite ends of that spectrum there, where it's like Matt's trying to keep the faith, but physically it's not going well, and Fisk is kind of moving forward very proactively. But again, even if you just want to limit it to Matt, against the question of do I move on, do I keep the faith? Where basically Matt's kind of eventually he's going to be in line with Karen, but initially he was in the mindset of Foggy. So it's very interesting kind of how our friends are kind of connecting here.
Mm.
Speaking of Fisk a little bit,
let's talk about the dynamic between Fisk and Nadeem.
These two are going to get along famously. I can feel it in my bones. But before we get to that point here, they meet each other here. So basically, these are the big takeaway I had.
For some reason, I picture the beginnings of a Bob Hope and Bing Crosby road movie with us.
And of course, basically, that road movie is going to be violently interrupted. But time. So what I really love about Kingpin and Nadeem, kind of rewatching the episode, because basically, folks, going into these episodes, this is like the second time I've watched, because you binge the season, then now I kind of return to it episode by episode, so and knowing what after the end of the season. So I looked at it with new eyes, and of course I rewatched a couple times. The point being that first really kind of approached it with fresh eyes when we were getting ready for this. So these two men, are both seemingly, emphasis on seemingly, these two men seemingly are in a desperate position of needing each other, and they're trying to protect and support their loved ones, which of course leads to the deal that they make. So I love they're both kind of coming from the same place, but of course from very opposite ends of kind of law, if you will.
Mm.
So I like that kind of being their connection, kind of a deal out of desperation for the loved ones. That's neat.
Yeah, I think I pretty much said my piece on Nadeem in the earlier segment with him, but I mean, you're right. It is very much kind of like the predatory, like Fisk is like. Let me ask you this, Dragon. Keep in mind, I haven't really rewatched the season. I only watched the season once through, and I haven't rewatched any of these episodes, so I'm not that fresh on it. But
well, I mean, we're on the same we're on the same.
Right.
I just rewatched this episode a couple times, but bear in mind, yeah.
Same here. So did Kingpin just kind of luck out that he got Nadeem as just a guy who's kind of desperate and willing to do anything?
Well, I'm just trying to go over my head.
Basically, from what I saw in the episode, it's like kind of like it's sort of like the job that nobody wants at the office to go and visit Kingpin once a month to negotiate.
No, okay, I know the answer.
It's like a job that kind of gets passed around from person to person.
No, the answer is this: this guy has been tasked with this job. He's been doing it for a while, and I said no. It's specific. He knows that Nadeem is coming with the deal.
Okay, gotcha.
And we'll get into more of that later in the other episodes, but I know specifically, that's the deal. The point is, like, he knows Nadeem is going to be coming. That's speaking of the dying. Before we move on with them, I love one last thing within that scene. The end scene of the episode is that I love Nadeem's like the guy. Like, he keeps going to Fisk. They already have somewhat of a dynamic where he goes to Fisk and Fisk just doesn't say anything to him and he leaves. It's just like, yes, Miss Fisk, we let you roll in your associates, and like it's crap. It's not going to work, is it? It's just like, okay, it's just like you can tell me to screw off, right? He says, I'd like to make a deal. Of course, I love it. The Fisk does have that threatening edge to him, where again he's not being threatening at all, but again, that's the beauty of the Kingpin. Again, even the character, he's like, sure. He's just like saying, "You have loved ones, Agent Nadeem," and he's telling you that.
That alone, just the statement that Nadeem has loved ones, is like enough to be like, is that a threat? Is that a threat?
Exactly, and again, it's a very valid question. Again, it sounds a little threatening, but again, I love that. Of course,
it's almost kind of like a Bane. Like, do you feel in charge?
Again, I love that the fascinating about the Kingpin is when he says these statements, again, he does mean them from a genuine place. That's the wonderful thing about it. Where no, he's speaking to you. The man loves love, man. I don't have to tell you. All right. So point moving forward, let's broach some of the more spectacular angles here. Let's talk about how the show dared to be different.
Shoot. Okay, there we go. Let me zoom in a little, but yes, dared to be different.
Yes. All right, so what did the episode do spectacularly?
Why don't you go first while I adjust this?
Right. So So of course, this to me again, this episode to me again, maybe not to the same extent as something like the first episode of Punisher, but in the same vein, this episode does feel very movie-esque. It feels kind of movie within an episode, specifically with Matt's story. I don't know what it is. This episode feels really well self-contained in that it's saying something. It's kind of a
Is that
full
okay
arc
for
for
the
these
image right?
characters.
Does that work for you?
Oh yeah, it's fine.
Okay. Just making sure. Okay,
That's
go
perfect.
ahead.
It's fine. Anyway,
Okay.
so Matt, my point is, so I love that this episode feels almost like a movie. At the very least, it's very self-contained. That again, there's an arc, there's a payoff. This episode feels very much like everything you need to say about the episodes here. Like it's obviously we're gonna get more episodes. We're gonna get more we're gonna continue this story. But by the same token, it feels very complete, mainly through the Matt story, but everything else does feel like, okay, well, we're saying all of this feeds into the Matt story in some way or shape or form, at least thematically. So it's all very, I really like it. I mean, even with the Nadim thing, of course, Nadim is a father, very much like kind of the whole Jack and Matt story, which
Well, I
was
mean, with the Nadine thing, like specifically, I just think that it was ballsy of them to introduce this character with 10 minutes left of the episode with no more screen time for Matt.
mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like that in itself is like a dare to be different in its own right.
There's something really special about just how they constructed this first episode. Of course,
but I hear what you're saying about the movie thing with Matt, because he does kind of go through a 3-act structure in a way of, kind of like the act one with Matt is very much kind of like the I can't see, like, the very physically disabled, like, having to kind of build himself up again. Act two is kind of like the training and the boxing match and everything. And then of course act three is the big the big like Daredevil, like I'm gonna die as Daredevil, I can't live as Matt Murdock type stuff. It's all very satisfying. It all kind of forms a cohesive like whole by the end of the episode.
Yes. Of course, they found a way. Amazingly, folks, I don't want to undersell this. They found a way to follow season 2 and Defenders without being fully dependent on you seeing Defenders. Because again, this is really much because we have that scene with Karen. This is a follow up to season 2 where we left off with Karen and the Kingpin. It's all there. The only question is like, I mean, the only lingering question you could have is that very opening scene. But again, we kind of talk about it, so it's kind of there, and we see him being buried alive, and we show that scene. Therefore, it is all there, so you don't need to have seen Defenders. But by the same token, it's like it will enrich the experience because then you have kind of the prologue that is the beginning of Born Again. That's the benefit you get from Defenders. But still, everything is it's a great follow up to season 2, which again, it's really remarkable when we can do something like that.
Sure.
All right, and as you were saying, just to kind of officially kind of go through it here, is again we have a far better Madani in one episode. We do all of this basically.
No, not in one episode. Fuck that shit. In like 8 minutes.
Technically, yeah. I mean, yeah, you're right. Before the king, I was going to say 10 minutes. But he's like, yeah, it's even before the Kingpin, the Deem scene. So yeah, 8 minutes. Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
So yes, it's a far better. Again, a far better Madani in one episode to more accurately 8 minutes than than with this Nadim character. He's an instant sell. And I care about him and his family situation. I'm not like because again, rewatching Punisher, like, oh god, I do not care about Madani's mother.
Dude, that's the reason why Punisher is just such a low-ranked Netflix show for me. Is just all that Madani stuff. Like, don't get me wrong, all the stuff with Frank and Karen, really good stuff, and you know what, Dragon? I'll even give the stuff with the with I don't know, that fucking the weird terrorist subplot. I'll even give that a pass with the Punisher just because I feel like that's still up Frank Castle's alley in terms of what he would be dealing with. But that Madani stuff just drags everything down in that season. And Nadim is just totally the opposite. I feel like Nadim is just like this original character that I feel like, he's not necessarily well, you know what? I was going to say he's not necessarily fully fleshed out in his own right, but that's the great thing about him, Dragon, is that I feel like Nadim is equal parts a plot point and also a fully fleshed out character. I don't know. Me, Dragon, I'm usually pretty negative on this kind of stuff, but I'm genuinely kind of beaming about what they did with him.
Now, the very interesting thing about Nadim, I have a theory as to maybe the secret ingredient, the chemical X, if you will, in Ray Nadim might be that he's kind of filling the Ben Urich shoes a little bit, right?
Yeah, totally. I could see that.
I mean,
Yeah.
don't get me wrong. I mean, we still have like Ellison. But Ellison's more so the Ben Urich villain. But by the same token, I mean, in terms of like the
But I
importance
feel
of
like
character and dedicating.
Ellison is more kind of like the archetype, but
Yeah,
thematically on a writing level, this guy is definitely a Urich.
exactly. That's what I'm saying. Like he has like, if you look back in Daredevil season one, kind of our side character, or side plot that we cared about. That again was a character not Matt Murdock or Wilson Fisk, but still a subplot that we cared about. That of course laid into Karen,
Right, exactly.
basically a plot point that a storyline that connects to, will eventually will connect to our other characters. Again, of course, Nadim Solo, which connects to the Fisk and eventually connects to everybody else. So that's it's very it's very kind of Uric-esque, and that's a good thing. So. Let's see. Striking visuals in the direction. Like the opening shot, man. The opening shot where we have Matt in kind of the upside down cross. Where again, literally he's in again. So you have an upside down crucifixion in the water. Where basically the idea is like we show the explosion has happened, and we see like the end of Defenders has happened. Like he's being buried in the rubble. Like gas lines are rupturing, and the place is filling with water, and basically show how Matt survived. One, again, the upside down cross thing is a brilliant stroke. Again, then because again, he's kind of dying for the Defender's sins in a way. It's kind of funny. If there's a parallel, here's the thing. If there's,
I'm sorry, the show was mediocre.
More so, again, honestly, if it's like I'm bearing the cross for the failings of the second phase of the Netflix shows.
Pretty much, yes.
Again, look, I'm not. Believe me, I'm not the guy who's going to be harsh on Netflix shows. I'm mainly echoing Tiki's sentiment here, but yeah, I would admit, yes, they are. They are.
I mean, you might like Luke Cage season 2 for what it is, but you got to admit it's a step down from season 1 at the very least.
I mean, sure, but it's like saying like the sequel's never as good as the original to an extent.
But that's a sentiment that I wholeheartedly disagree with, though. Back to the Future Part 2, Godfather Part 2, Toy Story 3. I mean, there's a myriad of examples of movie sequels that are better. Anyways.
All right. Okay, fair point. Regardless, the point is we have that upside down shot, and we show we kind of sell you on like how the heck is he going to get out of that? And we show well it's just going to luck, and again it's a question of is it luck or is it maybe like a God intervention thing to parallel. I love importantly with that too. I love we're not beating you over the head with religion yet. It fits in very naturally because one, of course, Daredevil being a religious character, and we've set up Lantham in the church and everything. And yet, and this is a very existential thing he's going through here. And again, like this is a thing. It's kind of a gutsy move, and we're getting away with it because we've set the groundwork up so well in the past 2 seasons and a half with Defenders.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
and let's see. And of course, some other visuals, which we'll get into at Blinding Moments, is really great visual motifs and just really great, great ideas. The dialogue and the writing I thought was so great because again, the Job scene is the best example I could give, like the writing of season 3. Like, oh my god, that Job scene is perfect and parallels Matt Murdock's arc so wonderfully, and again complements the religious component and the story of Daredevil just to a T. Perfect, great writing. Yeah. Let's see. Do you have anything else, or should I just?
I already mentioned the shot, but like I said, I as you were saying about the composition of this episode, I really think that the bat exit for Daredevil was composed really nicely, where we see Daredevil on the ground, and then the camera pans up to the cops, and then it pans back down. Matt's not there. That was a very well executed shot, just generally speaking.
Again, as I like to say that again, I love that we see Matt's not at full strength for this whole season. More accurately, we show a really accurate recovery for Matt and him retraining himself, and we're not just wasting time. We're not like writing it off in a montage. Like we're showing him getting again not the full strength, but full enough. And again, it makes you worry for the guy. By the same token, again, like he's getting back in the swing of things. A little signage trick. I've always heard about this trick. I've always tried, but never works out that great. But still, I got to see him use the signage trick and actually worked for a change. You use the little teapot, and you get the blood and gunk at it. It gets the blood and ash out of his sinuses. Little tricks like that. The old boxing tricks. Really good stuff. Let's see. I love the. We have the denial of loss in a natural, non-melodramatic way, which again is Tiki. I can vouch in so many CW shows, in so many. Arrow specifically, there is such. Oh God, I'm sorry. It compounds after a while. I mean, 7 seasons of Arrow. God. The point being, just the denial of loss in a natural way, in a way that's actually. in a way that's actually believable and not like, I'll never be the same again. Then they come back and they go again, and they come back and they go again. We did in a compelling, we did in just a straightforward, like believable way. It was believable, right?
Yeah. I thought so.
Like paying the apartment was like a little, it's a little human touch versus the whole like,
I didn't have any problem with it.
he'll never be the same again without the loved one who's been lost and probably going to come back.
Right, I hear you.
Let's see.
Right.
I think one. Of course, I already mentioned the parallel. Just again, the Fisk and Daredevil are back, and they're building, and they're both in two different low places. That kind of the power shifts in that regard by the end of the episode. Kingpin's kind of slowly on the up, and Daredevil, of course, he's plumb right back at rock bottom where he started the episode. He's like he's right back, and oh god, and of course the gutsy idea that again the Kingpin makes more progress than Matt Murdock does. That's
all
right.
So let's move on to the blinding moment of awesome.
Yeah.
I just love how cocky Matt looks in this shot.
Oh yeah. Strike pose.
I'm blind Matt Murdock.
I know, right?
All right, so Dragon, I believe that you have the chronologically the first one.
Yes, I do.
Go ahead.
All right, so again, I would have gone with Job. Job was very tempting, folks, and that's a great scene. I love it. But I gotta be honest, my heart of hearts, basically, I was kind of if I was basically presented with an option, gun to my head, if I had to pick a scene, and I gotta be honest, my heart of hearts, I had to go back to what I was feeling when I was watching the episode on this one. I was losing my mind during the omelet scene. When I watched it the first time, because of course,
I saw that omelet scene. I was like, man, I'd like that as my blinding moment. Dragon's probably gonna pick it, but I'm just gonna throw it in there anyways.
I swear to God, Tiki, my mindset was, you know what, the omelet, it's my instant go-to. I'm not gonna go with the omelet. I'm gonna pick a Matt scene, but then I realized again, once given the option of like, should I let him have the omelet scene? But then I realized like, if I'm being basically it was the omelet scene or one of the earlier Matt scenes we already went through. Like I was like. Well, I didn't want to pick the omelet, but I mean, I was geeking out so much during the omelet scene. I kind of had to pick
it's understandable, Dragon. It's understandable.
Because I didn't want to go. I can't have all my blind moments be Fisk scenes. That's the thing.
Well, make that a goal for the rest of the podcast. Just keep that in mind.
Anyway, but so I mean, basically, we have like classical music playing. We have Nocturne playing specifically. Not like Nocturne's playing. Basically we have. The omelet scene is basically the big reintroduction of Kingdom. Of course, if you know the show, then obviously like when you see that plate having an omelet, when you see an omelet being made, you know what this is indicative of. The best episode of the series, which is episode 8, Shadows Under Glass.
Oh yeah.
And of course, that has the idea is like Fisk is making an omelet. Of course, folks buckle up because I'm getting the significance of food here yet again. So again, the omelet, as in that episode, the omelet is a symbol of two things. The omelet is a symbol of his love with Vanessa, because the omelet paid off. Like he was eating this alone, preparing this meal alone for himself every morning until Vanessa came along, and then Vanessa would eat the omelet with him. And on the flip side of that, you have the omelet as a symbol of power. That again, this powerful man is eating this omelet alone, a very great looking, this very high scale up played the classical music apartment. It's high society at its finest, and it's basically a symbol of Vanessa and power within breakfast. And we do this, and then basically we see kind of the idealized, kind of like great version of it in Fisk's head. We get a peek into Fisk's head, which again is another callback to Shadows Under Glass, where yet again it's Fisk, the kind of Fisk having that, that horrible, like kind of blood-soaked young Wilson Fisk image. It's basically the imagination of the Kingpin playing yet again here in this case. And then we have the reality check. The reality check is amazing, where again he's making this exquisite omelet. He's putting it on a plate and everything. Then we reveal, no, it's like on a paper plate. He's using a hot plate to make the omelet.
Yeah, that's such a good. It's like you already illustrated. Like Kingpin, like wants all the vanities. Like he wants that, like that nicely garnished with the night. It's like not having that lifestyle is just literally driving him crazy.
And again, it's the Tiki. It's again. I know it sounds strange, but again, the omelet is the answer to all here. Where again, it's the symbol of power, which is again, it's just the wealth and the extravagance and Vanessa. But I think he's longing for Vanessa more. But the power is what visually we're seeing. And that's the thing is we have this we have that reality check which gets you a lot of credibility. Where again, T ordinarily you've seen the thing so many times where like we have a bad guy in prison has like all the trimmings or he can have
Oh yeah,
everything in
yeah,
his
sure,
prison.
sure.
With Fisk, we don't do that. We show there are limitations. Like
But the
last
great thing
season,
about that is that Fisk, like out of all the characters that you could get away with that cliche with, Fisk would be like at the top of the list, right?
that's the thing. But again, he's trying. He can only buy off so many guards. He pretty much controls the prison. Sure, I mean, I'm not saying that, but I'm not saying he doesn't. But again, I'm sure there are some limitations, and those limitations are very simple. Right? He can't have silverware. You know, he's a spork. You know, he's making an omelet that only looks so good from a prison omelet he can have, which again is like it's a little dinky compared to like the idealized version. And the point being with that scene though, again, he's like he looks unshaven. He looks like it is driving him nuts. But again, more so, he's eating this omelet alone in the cell. And my favorite thing about this, by the way, is again the striking ending. And I take this on a rewatch. This blew my mind because the big ending of season one, I have reevaluated one of my favorite bits at the end of season one. You know, the big Fisk, he's put back into the prison. You know, he's put in the prison. And he's facing a white wall, which of course is indicative of what we now know the white wall and you know, Rabbit in a snowstorm to symbolize the death of his father, all that stuff, like the birth of the kingpin. Essentially, that's what that Rabbit in a snowstorm represented. But now it occurred to me, oh my god, how did I never just put it together at the end of season one? But they would have now put together here that the painting has took on new meaning entirely. I'm not saying this never occurred to me, but it never occurred to me like why this is torture for Wilson Fisk.
Oh yeah.
He's looking every time he looks at that wall now, he's thinking of Rabbit in a snowstorm specifically, not for the past, not as a punishment for the past, but the punishment that he thinks of Vanessa every time he looks at this wall, and Vanessa isn't there.
Yeah,
Right?
that's good. That's
And he's
good.
eating that omelet in front of that wall. And again, she's not there. And we have this great bit where again we see the Kingpin's frustration. Of course, he hears like a prison going outside. And we show it that he does. Again, we show in a moment he does have control, but it's still there's only so much where he says quiet, and the entire prison shuts up.
That's a great moment right there. Yeah,
And that's what I'm talking about. Again, he has that control, but it's only going to get him so far. And then of course he gets the bad news that again it just there's more. Again, it's just you know it's just oh god, it's just it's wonderful. That and the walls are reminders. The omelet is a beautiful scene. It's a huge symbol for the Kingpin. Again, if you want to look at like the Kingpin as kind of the egg shaped criminal to an extent, again all white. If you want to make other egg parallels, the point is the Kingpin. There's a lot that ascertain from this omelet scene, folks. That's what I'm getting at here. Point is the omelet scene's awesome.
all right. So my moment, Dragon, is very much just a moment. It's very much kind of like, if anything, I would describe it as just like a little bit of like fight choreography, right? Do you want to do you want to set up the fight and then I'll take us into it?
All right, so basically we had this really awesome cut, by the way. I just wanted to highlight this too while we're talking about the scene where Matt again, you know, Matt he like digs through like a church. I gotta admit, this is like the only buy in the episode, by the way, but it's great, so I don't care. I have my own logic for it, but it's the fact that how the heck is Matt gonna know he's wearing all black? When he picks up the laundry and everything. I mean, he could have just asked Sister Maggie if it's all black, but I mean that's the easy way. But I like to think of it as because Stick taught him how to tell all the things in the air and everything, like how what's in the ice cream and everything. You know, like how to hone his senses to like ridiculous amount. I like to think he can smell the dyes. I think he knows it's black because it's like
right,
dye.
right.
That's my logic for it, at least. Or he could add the simple thing. You just asked like Father Lantham or say, "Hey, am I wearing all black?" Before he left. That's the simple way. But anyway,
that's the way I like to think that it went down. Like it's just like a super casual, like Latham's like, oh hey Matt, I see you're up to the Devil of Hell's Kitchen thing again. Yeah, Father, does my outfit look right? Well, you know, it's obviously just dirty laundry. Yeah, I know, but it's black, right? It's all black. It's color coded. Yeah, you're good on that front. All right,
I gotta be honest, you know, it would have been hysterical again. Like, this would have been awesome, but at the same token, but you know, it's the same thing. It's like they wanted to be, they didn't want to take away from the moment, obviously. But you know what they could have done though? They could have had him in the red and yellow. You know, they could have had like 5 mismatched laundry.
Oh my god, that's great.
That would have been the one time we would have been able to get away with the red and yellow if we, Anyway, okay, no, in all seriousness, so basically we had this great cut of like Maddie's gotten ready, he's suiting up, and he's and basically we cut to him like in the middle of like a season 1 situation where he's saving people and he's beating these guys up. Basically, this dry cleaning ring. This dry cleaning ring are people they're kidnapping. It's kind of like probably a kidnap and ransom sort of operation, I guess. Point is, these guys. They're there's a direct reason for it, but we'll learn that next episode. The point is like he's fighting these guys and saving some people, and he saves the people, and then of course now he's just left alone with them. And of course Matt's not at full strength; they're kind of taking a breather, and then what happens?
And then the dude is just like, I'm paraphrasing here, but the guy is kind of just like, hey, man, this isn't your fight, asshole. And then Matt, this is my moment here, folks. This is my moment. And again, it's a very particular moment, but Matt he just raises both of his fists. And then he just gives this gesture like, oh, come on. You want more? I'll give you more. I'm not even close to being done with you, motherfucker. And of course, he doesn't say anything. He doesn't say any of that. It's all just implied in the in the gesture. But Dragon, I just love that moment of Matt just being like, oh, come on, I am not even close to being done. Let's do it. I've got so much more left to give. That to me is just prime Daredevil right there, Dragon. That to me is like kind of like the raw material.
Now, thematically, what's great about that moment too, by the way, Tiki, is again it kind of harkens back to
Go ahead. Shit. Hello? God damn it. Dragon. Don't know if this is you or me, buddy. I'm pretty sure it's me. Yeah, I'm like, I don't know. Sorry about this, folks. I'm gonna go out and come back in really quickly. And if Dragon's talking, then I'll just assume it was me. But if not, then it was oddly him having the technical difficulties this time around, which doesn't often happen. So I'll be right back, folks. Give me 1 minute.
Hello, sorry about that, folks. We're back. Terribly sorry. Anyway, yes. Hello.
Yes. Hey, so I assume it was you having the technical difficulties.
Yes, it was. Yes, it was. Sorry about that.
Okay.
Anyway,
no problem. I'm glad that I didn't have 2 technical difficulties in a row.
Anyway, folks,
so it's fine.
My point. What was the last thing you heard me say?
Well, you were kind of. I know you didn't mean anything by it, but you were kind of like interrupting a point I was making, which is like, that's pure ethereal Daredevil right there. Like that's that's kind of like the raw emotion in the combat that we love from this character. And then you were just kind of like starting to be like, yeah, Tiki, but you see, you're right. And the thing about this is, and then you just kind of cut off.
So would you like to finish your initial point, or should I just get back
I literally just did finish my initial point. It's like, yeah, that's like kind of like the raw quality of emotion that we get with a Daredevil fight right there, man.
Yeah, and the great thing about it thematically is that I love that we knew for a fact that Matt he was in trouble because we when he was boxing the guy earlier on, he could have left. He took a hit. And he says, and Maggie's saying, hey, you want to stop here? She says, no, let's keep going. Of course, then he gets laid out. And he made the same mistake. So I love that we, the audience, are tipped off to the fact that, yeah, Matt's going to be in trouble. Where, again, he saves the people, and he should have left, but he didn't, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And, of course, that leads into the awesome ending of the scene that we get, but we've already kind of talked about that. So I guess with that in mind, Dragon, let's move on to the penultimate segment of the episode. Oops, hold on, wrong tab. Sorry. 1 moment. let's move on to the Braille Trail of Dragon. Yes, I know I have to zoom in on this one.
Yes, so the Braille Trail here, folks. You can kind of like a little the Easter eggs in the setup, if you will. So, of course, there's I Can't See. It's indicative of the first episode. There's like the running parallel between Daredevil and the Kingpin. The omelet, of course, is a big one.
Like you
the
said,
link
with
up.
the rabbit.
Yeah, oh yeah, and there's the link up to the end of Defenders in that it's two link ups. One's the link up to like his fate at the end of Defenders, but also the like we reveal Matt's alive. We directly link up with that scene. Someone call Maggie, he's awake. Speaking with Sister Maggie, who lived up to the hype, by the way, I meant to say that in kind of the Dare to Be Different, but Sister Maggie, and they talked her up for a while, and she lived up to the hype. Big born again character and a big Daredevil character as a whole, and so far so good.
As you already alluded to, Dragon, I like the whole imagery of Matt Murdock with the boxing gloves. That was good. Like generally speaking, I feel like there's less so like Easter eggs in this episode, and there's more so like a lot of kind of like laying the groundwork thematically with where we're gonna go. Are you with me on that?
Absolutely, yeah.
So it's like with Matt, it's like there's a lot of just like, all right, like he's got a long way to go. He's on a road to recovery. His whole arc is that he's going to have to like let people in again, which of course, as we spoiler alert, people, spoiler alert, by the end of the season, him and Karen and Foggy are all friends again. So, we see that gets fulfilled by the end of the episode, even though he's in a very dark place right now.
Right, and of course, we do have a few Easter eggs though, because one of my favorite characters is in this. He's in this season a little bit, and of course, he was introduced in Luke Cage. I'm trying to think. Yeah, it was Luke Cage is introducing because he's in Daredevil season. Yeah, bring him in. Yeah, bring him in Daredevil season 2, but I think it was Luke Cage before Daredevil season 2, right?
I want to say it was Daredevil. I want to say it was Daredevil, then Jessica Jones season 1, and then Daredevil season 2.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah. Sorry, folks. It's been a while because Daredevil and Luke Cage came out in the same year. That's what I'm thinking of. Point being, yes, you're right. So the point being, it was the point is this character's been in this end, but of course he's originally a Luke Cage character. That's why I was thinking of Luke Cage. The point being, Big Ben Donovan. I love Big Ben Donovan. I love he's the Kingpin's lawyer, and that's why I was geeking out. Oh my God!
Yes.
And he's the Kingpin's lawyer, which is even better. And of course, like the idea about Big Ben. That unfortunately, Luke Cage, at least in season 2, at least they got into the story a little bit, which is cool. I love that they got into the story a little bit. The idea they never explicitly said, but the idea is that Big Ben Donovan, he was a guy who was in prison so often he read law books and he became a lawyer because he was thrown into prison.
Oh, that's really smart.
I know. So I love Big Ben Don whenever he shows him. I love that he's the Kingpin's lawyer. So again, he's kind of like the showman lawyer. So that's kind of what he's. That's kind of what we do with them. So we bring back. He's the one saying, "Mr. Fisk, we have news." It's always great that I always get a good feeling. Oh man, it's Big Ben Don. How wonderful! Of course, we mentioned Stick and Elektra. We reference them. We kind of see Elektra. We reference Stick. Matt. Where's the blood? It's just all blood and ash, but not in a good, fun way to splash around.
Oh, no. Oh dear.
Matt, I miss you. I'm not in the season anymore. Matt. Of course, I'm just gonna go on this because we're not gonna have any other
exactly like that, Dragon.
We're not gonna have a lot of Elektra opportunities this season. I'll try to get one more out while we get this episode. There's one more, like an ode to Elektra here. I love that, of course, so when Matt wakes up, the first thing he asks about is like, where's Elektra? And of course, I had this great conversation with Lantern, who says, Matt, I gave the funeral for Elektra. No, Father Lantern, she came back. Essentially saying, yeah, she came.
All right, well, regardless, a building fell on her, Matthew.
That's great. So again, that's smart writing where we not
Latham is kind of like going with the insanity, but he's still like, yes, but even within the parameters of this insane thing you're laying out, it still doesn't make sense.
See, that's smart writing to me, where we acknowledge it and we don't have like the question of like, again, I can't tell you how many shows it's like, no, did they survive? Didn't they? This is impossible. We just drag it on and we just dress it in like 2 seconds. Like, okay, we're just going, well, look, even if she did survive, the building fell on her, man. Like, you barely survived. And of course, with that, I'm thinking like Elektra there in the scenes, he's just calling to Elektra, Matthew, look at me. I'm a Force ghost. I'm just talking to you. Matt, we can be together forever, Matthew.
No one is ever really gone, Matthew.
No one. Anyway. Look, Stick's here. Stick, say hi. Hiya, kid. Anyway, so okay. In all seriousness, sorry, folks, a little ridiculous tangent.
Don't worry, Danny. That weird homeless guy that you borrowed for his phone from in that awkward exposition scene, he's coming back, Danny. He's coming back.
Danny, I remember he died of heroin. Anyway, well, he did. Anyway.
Okay, Dragon, can we please just have Force Ghost Electra as like a running gag in this podcast?
Okay, look, let's not make that.
Please.
Look, let's not make it.
It's very appropriate for the end of, because Electra is like by far the biggest running gag that's come out of like any of the Netflix Marvel stuff we've covered. I feel like it'd be appropriate.
Okay, look, maybe not every episode, but we'll bring her back, okay?
Oh, yes, I'm a reoccurring character, Matthew.
Anyway.
Ooh, I am spooky like a ghost, Matthew. Ooh.
It was basically Electra wearing a white sheet. Like, ooh, look at it. Basically, as a Force Ghost, it's Electra wearing a white sheet. Like, ooh, look at me, Matthew. Basically, imagine like a bed sheet ninja with size. Getting back on point, if we may.
Yeah,
of course, we show the Daredevil season 2 conversation between Matt and Karen. That's a biggie. Vanessa is still overseas, and importantly, she's protected. That's going to be a plot point that's going to come back later. So again, she's overseas and she's protected. Ray Nadeem, this is a big one. This is an important one for Nadeem. So Ray Nadeem is facing money troubles because, emphasis, I know it sounds like you're saying the same thing you said before, but I want to emphasize this, folks, because his sister-in-law was denied coverage. And
gotcha. Underline that fact on the blackboard.
And also something else. Nadeem, so he went to his boss, who we're going to get to see in a few more episodes here. Nadeem's boss is Hatley, I believe Tammy Hatley. So Hatley is his boss, who denied him. Again, she denied him because he has bad credit, essentially because of his money trouble. So again, importantly, Hatley denied him, and she's really going out of her way to deny him here. We're going to learn a little bit more about that in a couple episodes. So. Okay. Let's see if there's anything major here. Oh, Cabs. We introduced Cabs. Cabs are going to be really important. They're getting a big kind of born-again callback. So again, there are a lot of neat little born-again callbacks.
Cabs is, Dragon?
No, I mean literally cabs in New York. Taxi.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought it was like some like mobster character or something. Like Kingpin's like, yes, Cabs. Your nickname is Cabs because you're a cab driver. You've gone insane like Robert De Niro. So I'm going to call you Cabs.
Oh, God.
Great.
Now I'm just going to do it now. Just do appease you real quick here. Matt, listen, I was watching the movie Scrooged, and there's a cab driver who can take me back through time. I don't need a fancy suit or anything. I don't need a little bracelet to travel back in time. It's a lot of fun. He makes funny jokes.
Okay.
Anyway, so
anything else before we shift
that's the thing. I think what it is about. Matt has a room below the chapel, and of course, it's going to be important for later episodes. But also, I like the bit where remember once he's back in the swing of things, once he kind of reinvests and he's somewhat reinvesting in the big man upstairs. So he's kind of taking the cynical edge down a notch. I like that he's in the basement. He's like not attending the thing, but he's listening to it because now his senses have returned. He's hearing like the choir upstairs. That's a nice bit.
Yeah.
Oh, and sewing up Jack. It's a big one too. Again, Jack Murdock is introduced this season. Of course, we're gonna wait a while before we bring it back. It's gonna be a really great thing when we bring up Jack Murdock again. But I love that he's when Maggie's sewing him up, she mentions like I used to sew up my dad. And of course, mentioning his father to Maggie, given the relationship that's going to be there. That's neat. It's a neat little like when you watch it a second time, like nice.
Sure. All right. Okay, so let's move on to the Nelson and Murdoch verdict, aka our final thoughts on the episode. Dragon, what do you got?
All right,
you got, my friend. And then when we switch gears to my final thoughts, I'll switch over to the last image.
Perfect. All right, so folks, to put it simply, this episode is very strong. It's a very strong, calculated story to the season. This captures born. See, some people. I know some people overall in this season, some people like really born again purists are like, they didn't do born again, and the show was so good. And say, why didn't they do born again for full season? Guys, what more do you want? Given what happens in this season, and the fact that again, Defenders gets them to the low point, and we anything else that literally like we reference a whole lot of born again, if not again, we don't do it beat by beat because again, like certain like Nuke, Nuke who's in Jessica Jones is in Born Again, but obviously we can't do that. One, because unfortunately we killed him.
Yeah, good job. Again, that's one of the more annoying things about Jessica Jones season 2.
Yes, which really bugs me. But the point being, again, folks, you can't do everything. But again, they referenced it, and Born Again is thematically what the whole season's about. And this episode this is one of the most Born Again episodes. And there's definitely a lot more Born Again touches, especially when we get to episode 4. So I'm just going to still get, anyway, so off of anyone who has that complaint about it, I'm just going to get back to my final thoughts here. So this episode captures the Born Again struggle right out of the gate. We found the perfect middle ground for that story as a whole, and and in a way that continues where Matt's arc left off in a really great way. We're asking the big questions to what is Matt's purpose and what is his life destined for, and we answer in somewhat the answer is somewhat Wilson Fisk in his battle for the soul of Hell's Kitchen. That's basically kind of like Wilson, and that's kind of what the episode is when you look at it, Tiki, is that if Matt's looking for an answer like what am I doing here, what is my purpose, and at the end the episode ends with Wilson Fisk almost as the thematic answer to Matt's question, like Wilson Fisk is, the gears are turning in Wilson Fisk's head. He's going to get out of prison. He's going to stir up some trouble. That's Matt's purpose, to stop this guy. That's why he's put on this earth. You want to look in the 3-season span of the show here, again, thematically, it's that they're battling for the soul of Hell's Kitchen. That's what Matt's purpose is, and that's at least what the direct, mission is for him here, and that's kind of what his purpose is going to be, at the very least, for the show, and that's kind of why his work is not done as long as this guy is still doing stuff. And the episode is that resurrection and the difference of reinventing. It's like kind of the difference of re-entering life, Matt physically and emotionally, and Kingpin in kind of the in reclaiming his power. So again, we continue that really great parallel. This episode's checking off all the right boxes for me. It's the beginning of something beautiful, one could say. To quote the Kingpin, I wanted to make this city into something beautiful, and you took that away from me. But no, this episode is the beginning of something truly beautiful. That's the best thing I can say about the episode. I love it so much.
All right, yeah, I don't have as like eloquent of last words as you do, Dragon, but I definitely enjoyed this episode a lot. I feel like it very much kind of lays the groundwork for the season to come, and the season definitely goes at a breakneck speed as we kind of hit the ground rolling on the season, because Kingpin's out of jail and we get Matt back in Daredevil action very quickly on. So I appreciate that this episode kind of took the time to really sort of pump the brakes and be like, okay, we need to deal with the ramifications of Matt literally like dying in the eyes of most people. We need to kind of build him back up. We need to we need to have him go on this, like essentially, like you said, Dragon, it's a mini movie, essentially, especially with Matt's arc. And I really like it about that. Other than that, we've kind of harped on over and over again, like Nadeem, yes, Nadeem, he's good. So, he's definitely a valuable part of the show as well. Just overall in the episode, like you said, it's it's just a very solid foundation of like, okay, we're going to, this is kind of like the overall themes that we want to hit again, all the Born Again themes, like you said, and as we go through the season, we hit them, and I feel like it's a good kind of thesis statement for the rest of the season, and I liked it a lot. All right, so on that note, folks, hold on. So that's all for now until our next daring installment of Discerning Daredevil. Excelsior!
Enough said. Come roll around in the ash and blood with me, Matthew. It'll be fun.
Don't worry, Jack Murdoch. No one's ever really gone.